Well, good morning, everyone. How the heck are we doing today?
Hey, morning, Chris. Morning, everyone.
Morning,
Hey, good
Gaston.
morning.
Yes, Gaston, Alex, thank you guys so much for getting up so early to. Well, at least Gaston for getting up so early. Alex, this is your day, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I can't complain.
All right. So, and good morning to Jack and Bob and everyone who's joining us live on YouTube and on LinkedIn. So excited to have you here. We are here talking. This is Fabric Friday, so we're talking about all things fabric. And this, I'm so excited. Normally, we have our faithful like co-host Kevin is here, and we talk about fabric. But Kevin has unfortunately, well, I guess fortunately, he's has a doctor's appointment, so he's out today. But we've got Alex and Gaston from Power Mates, who've agreed to join and talk about a real unique way of looking and working with fabric. And I love this new YouTube channel, but I'm gonna not do it justice in promoting it and talking about how great it is. Gaston, Alex, you guys want to like fill our users in on what is PowerMates? What the idea that you guys had for this?
Yeah, of course, Chris. First of all, thank you for the invite. It's kind of an honor to be here. We were all missing Kevin today. Um, yeah, let me step back a little bit on Power Mates because this idea, Alex actually he pushed me a lot of time ago in terms of how we can explain a little bit the importance of the citizen developer framework and how a citizen developer understand the use case, the scenarios where they need to understand, first of all, the Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtualization world, and how they can make it real for any kind of use case and scenario. And then switching back because Power Platform is all around data behind the scenes. So from my end, I love data. So in that case, we make the mix with Alex and say, okay, how we can help that people to understand how important is data.
Yeah, exactly. I was working like for the last maybe 10 years on process automation and AI, but
Mm.
AI looking from the perspective of the citizen developer, how we can democratize the AI. So one of the key point was, okay, how we can help people who are using, for example, just Excel or just a Power Automate flow to combine those worlds and could, achieve the next level of data analytics or process automation. So that was one of the motivation for create the channel and start working together with Gaston. So yeah, I think this important for the citizen developer users
Mm.
and maybe the pro code users too, on how to uh, land data on the fabric side of things and can use properly. And that, I think, because more of the users that came from the low code world,
Hmm.
okay, we are used to create application flows, automate processing, and store data on some place. But then, what we can do with that data, so it's something that I'm super interested in how, like, they need to learn how to work with data. But yeah,
Well, I honestly, I'm super excited about this because to me, we're talking about, hey, input, output type situations or apps and analytics. Those things go together like, chocolate and peanut butter. So excited that we get to have this combination and we start talking about it because understanding how data comes into our system and how users like create that data for us to interact with and then for us to consume it, I think is a super helpful pattern for people to understand how these things interact. And especially, Alex, as you're talking about data ops, or I'm sorry, as you're talking about automation, I'm thinking data ops, right? How do we automate the work that we have? How do we automate the our run books to do our loads? How do we automate testing? How do we automate validation? How do we automate all these pieces? Because frankly, while I love data and I spend an inordinate amount of time talking and working with data, uh, my wife would really like it if I spent less time talking and data. And so automation is, I think, the real key there. So before we head into much more of this, we have a couple different rules that we're gonna quick run into or run through because we are here, because well, frankly, I really want to talk with Alex and Gaston. I want to talk to both of you, but we're really here because we want to answer questions and help people understand how they can leverage these new capabilities to work together. So we're going to evoke the Guide in the Cube Roach rules that are out there. We've got two of them. Roach rule number one: please prefix any questions with the Q so that we can get them queued up into our question and answer section. And then Roach rule number two is please do not repeat questions. If you're spamming questions, we do have moderators that are online and will help us make sure that they kind of get pulled out and you get put in a timeout. We don't really want to do any of that stuff, so it would be better if we didn't. All right. So if you do have questions, please do post those into the chat. We want to answer them for you. I'll be helping field those questions on both YouTube and LinkedIn. So with no more further ado, let's dive right into it. All right.
Awesome.
Okay. So we're talking about your first video. You went through some use cases on sharing and working together with Power Apps and Power Automate. Is that right, Gaston?
Yeah, that's right. The main goal for all of this, Chris, and then let me step back a little bit on the early days for Power BI, for example. When I start to kind of teaching and training bunch of people in Power BI when they start from scratch at the beginning, kind of 7, 8 years now. Uh, Everybody came from. Or almost everybody came from the Excel world, kind of they love Excel, and the very first phrase was, "Hey Gaston, this new kind of Power BI is gonna replace all that I've been doing for the last 20 years in Excel. Should I start migrating things and all the stuff?" And that was the main concern for all of them. And I feel that in some point, and going to our uh, Fabric Friday stock, is kind of a lot of people right now, they are concerned about, okay, Fabric is gonna replace Power BI. How the hell I gonna be switching between what I did with Power BI in the last few years and jumping into all these workloads, because I don't understand anything around Synapse Data Engineer, or data warehousing, or real-time analytics, and all the stuff. So the main goal for our channel with Alex is try to explain the optics of a citizen developer, that they are just trying to ramping up on new technologies. That could be Power Platform, that could be
Mhm.
Fabric, that could be a combination between all of them. So we are trying, and this is kind of a little bit of introduction of our very first 2 or 3 episodes. We are trying to setting up the stage on what you need to understand if you want to jump into Power Platform, if you want to jump to Fabric. And then further on this line, we will be trying to cover the optics of a citizen developer, understand what are the use cases, what are the real stories out there. Because what we would love to bring with Alex to the channel is what others in the global communities are been doing, more
Sure.
from the not just MVPs or kind of product teams, trying to setting up the stage for citizen developers, understanding, okay, someone that is running their own business, their own independent business, they are entrepreneurs, they are in different industries, how they can be leveraging all of these great technologies to work together, how they can start a Power Apps without knowing anything, because Copilot is there, and it's gonna help us to create
Yeah.
all these topics.
Well, that's a great point, Gaston. Copilot's really changing how we're going to be working and interacting, and the ability for people to engage. Alex, have you had many opportunities to work with Copilot as of yet?
Yeah, have been playing around with Copilot, and yeah, and this is another point because Copilot, it's awesome. You can start creating your application from scratch, just telling the Copilot, okay, I need an application that do this thing or whatever you need, and then it's going to create the application and to create the data and tables, whatever, and that the other okay. But then after create the application and everything is it's running on the application side of the house, okay, what you should do with data, because database is awesome, because it's not just a database, it's like a services, a bunch of services over data. But if you need to go the next level with data again, okay, you should combine or should take data to Fabric. So this is again, and the same thing with Copilot. If you are creating not just applications, maybe flows or Power Pages, Copilot is going to be in all the Power Platforms tools. So it's awesome from the point of view how quickly I can create application and have the time to market for application is going to be pretty quick. But then you need to start thinking what to do with data and so on.
Well, and that's why I really appreciate channels like yours and a guy in the cube and others, is because it allows people to see the conversation and the arts of the possible. And what's so magical about Copilot is once people understand the art of what's possible, to get to that possible used to be like long in development, right? Like you go through a big development cube. With Copilot, now it's just, hey, Copilot, how do I automate my refresh once ETL jobs are finished? Which also happens to be a question that we have from a user here. Budi is asking, how do we automate data refresh once ETL jobs are finished? Now, soon, Copilot's going to be able to really step in and do that. But can either one of you just like talk us through, or even potentially show someone how you would go and do that?
I would love to take the step here, Chris, because I've been in that place before, and actually my main explanation, I'm always try to think from the citizen developer perspective before putting my hat of a data architect, because as a data architect you have many options, but what I'm usually trying to explain to the citizen developer, trying to kind of have that mindset of, okay, I have my data set. I should create my data set with, let's say, Power BI desktop. And I create my data model, I create all my relationships, I publish this Power BI report to the service, and then what? And then I kind of delegate that kind of permissions in terms of I have my data model in the service, I need to refresh. So I explain a little bit the step-by-step process and what's going on behind the scenes. Because once you understand what's going on behind the scenes and you kind of schedule your refresh in your data set, you delegate that to a service principal account. And why is it so important to not use your own account and use a service principal, and the knowledge of using a service principal, what is behind the scenes a service principal, and why should I care about service principal? Because a service principal is kind of just a kind of service account. So let me share my screen, as Patrick said, usually in a cube. Let me switch to my machine and show you a little bit on that.
Yes, let's see it.
Let me know if you can see my screen. So, first of all, don't be scary about Fabric. Fabric, all your components around Power BI, they're going to be there. No, you're not going to be missing anything. If you're familiar with Power BI, you're going to be in Power BI. So just switch to the roles and personas in Power BI, and you're going to be see everything that happens in your Power BI world. All your data sets, they're going to be there. All your dashboard, reports, data set, everything is going to be there. So you're not going to be missing anything around this. Then remember that if you have a data set there, you can refresh your data set anytime. You can just manually refresh your data set anytime. It's just a matter of clicking on the data set and just hit the refresh, or go into your workspace, clicking your workspace, and then switching to your workspace. You're going to see your data set, and you can hit the refresh option here anytime. Why I am going back into this kind of citizen developer world? Because anytime you're kind of creating your data set or refreshing your data set behind the scenes, there's a lot of components going back and forth in Power BI. So in this case, if you're refreshing your data set and you want to automate that process, actually you can go and say, okay, this is my step-by-step process between I publish my report to the Power BI services and then I hit the refresh option, or I schedule that refresh directly from here and go into the settings and then schedule the refresh of your data set directly from here. You have the option to refresh and you can define all the agenda of that refresh. It could be a refresh daily basis, weekly basis, or so on.
So
This is kind of
Gaston,
this is kind of the manual process.
just
Yep.
a question. Before you move on this, I often get, hey, why is my refresh grayed out like we just saw there? Uh, can you quickly just explain to users, because I hear that like, I don't know, 7 times
Awesome,
a day,
awesome,
right?
awesome, awesome. Remember that your data set is connecting to any of your data source. Could be one data source or many data source because your data model lives in the Power BI services, but is still connected to your data source. So you need to hit the credentials here, and you need to enter the credentials to access your data set in order to understand that connection and hit that connection between your data set and your data model. So if you have one or more data source linking to your data model, you need to make sure that you have a connection. In this case, I'm connecting this data set with a SharePoint list. So and going back again to the service principal explanations. If you want to automate the process and you want to follow best practice, it's great to have a service principal that also has a connection to data source. So you can set up these connections in the data set itself, and then you're going to be able to go to the refresh and say, okay, I want to refresh this data set daily basis at some time, and let's say that you want another time, so you can say, in my case, I am the Pacific time zone, so I'm gonna hit this before everyone enter to the office at maybe 6 7 a.m. So I'm gonna refresh this at 5 a.m. and then I'm gonna hit and say, okay, at noon, when everybody is going to lunch, I'm gonna do another refresh at 12 p.m. Be sure that you are not conflicting, and this is another best practice. You are not conflicting because at enterprise scale, you might have 500, 5,000, 10,000 data sets
Hmm.
going out there. So you need to be really careful around kind of, and this is kind of a little bit of governance of the framework. You need to be sure that you don't have conflicting data sets and big data sets refreshing all at the same time. Uh, One quick thing is around automation. One option that you have, let's say that I refresh this manually, I just set up a refresh twice a day, for this data set. But let's say that I want to automate that process. Couple of options. First option, go into deployment pipelines. I have that in the left option here, and I can create a pipeline that allow me to do that. That's kind of a movement of my data set from one environment to the other. That's pretty much one of the automation that can have in Power BI. But let's say that I just want to automate the refresh of the data set. One option is going to my friend here, and this is again topic around Power Mates, and this is gonna be, let's go to Power Mates, and this is gonna happen really soon. That you can go and with the Copilot in natural language, just ask Copilot in Power Automate, I want to refresh my data set daily basis, and it's going to create a whole process for you. For now, you can go here to create, and in the create option, you're going to have multiple options. You can schedule a cloud flow, and then you can say refresh data set. And you can run this, let's say, starting today at 10 a.m., and I want to do this daily basis. So I can create my Power Automate process, and my Power Automate process can be connected, and you can add just a new step here and put Power BI. So you're going to discover that there's more than 800 native connectors at this point. So here you can add rows to the data set, update a check-in. You have multiple options in, and this is all around the REST API of Power BI. Power Automate has all the connections, and for those, and again, I love to talk about citizen developers. For those that they don't understand what is a REST API that this guy is talking, you can go here to kind of let's promote Bing. Let's promote Bing here, and let's go to Bing and say, okay, I want understand the Power BI REST API because I want to understand what is doable from the REST API. So you can go here and say, I want to understand what is the recipe. You can go here and understand the refresh with the Power BI, for example, and the options that you have to refresh a data set. So you can have all the examples of what is exposed in the recipe of Power BI, the retries, the objects, what are the options in terms of using the REST API to refresh your data set. Coming back to the Power Automate, you can see that in the Power BI, you can put something like Power BI, REST API, or data set, and you can see everything that happens in that stream. Let me go back here a little bit to go back and create Power BI data set, so you can see what are the options in terms of the data set. And you can see one option here that is to refresh a data set. So you can hit on that option. This is going to be signing to Power BI using this account. And then it's going to ask me for the workspace. And then I can leverage the refresh of the data set. So this is exactly
Shut
how
the
to
French
automate the
door.
process. This is just one single
So,
option, and this is exactly focusing on the citizen developer. Just few clicks to do that.
well, hang on a second. What coding? What XML endpoints do you have to write and access? Where do you put in the JSON? Where do you write the Python or the JavaScript to do this?
Nothing,
Is this it?
nothing that I need to write from scratch. So no Python, no JSON, no TMDL, no XMLA, no code to make it happen. And
Wait, so that means anyone can do this then?
exactly, exactly. And remember,
Oh my
in a few days, few weeks, few months, you're gonna go to this top here and you're gonna write in natural language. I want to refresh my data set in Power BI. And these two steps, they're gonna be there for you without the, any kind of need.
wow. Wow. So, I mean, frankly, that's incredible. Now, inside here, this looks relatively easy, but you are just doing a reoccurrence on a time
Yeah.
base. I think I'd be reluctant to, or I need to respect what Bundi is saying. Is saying like, okay, I finished my ETL. How do I make this run so that can I set up like a Power Automate to like watch or do something when something else happens? Is that something I can do too, or is that all JSON? Is that all Python? Is that all scripting?
Actually, what the
JavaScript
very
scripting?
first stage here, I am setting up this to do this, daily basis. But when you create the Power Automate from scratch, you can trigger this in an automated way. So you can go here and say, I want to create this one based on a trigger. And that trigger could be an ETL or a flow or something that you are doing in any other system. Let's say PBI data set as the name for the flow. And then I can start looking and some options in Power BI. So I can see in Power BI, or let's say that thinking more right now, I am putting my hat put in my hat of the data architect. Let's say that you are doing an ETL process with some other tools, and you're writing as a mechanism. We all know that as a data architect or data engineer, we are thinking around, okay, every time we ending with this pipeline, we are writing a complete status in a SQL database or something like that. So what you can do
Mhm.
is actually go here and say Azure SQL, and you can check with an item is create in SQL Server.
Whoa. Whoa. Now, there look like there should probably be some caveats and some cautions around this,
Yeah,
right?
of course,
Um,
of course. If you think around kind of an enterprise level of make it happen, this is all uh, thinking around a citizen developer. If you think more around the enterprise way to do this, you want to go with another kind of technologies like logic apps or going to Azure DevOps or that kind of mechanism that they are more kind of thinking around an enterprise layer where you want to automate an end-to-end solution. Not only
mhm.
Power BI is around ETL pipelines. Perhaps your pipeline is around data factory or is around another component. So in that case, of course, you need to be aware of all the components of your architecture design to define what is going to be the very best shot. Uh, and
Sure.
I don't want to answer. It depends because I don't I
The
don't
answer
want to go
always.
with that kind of consultant answer. But you know, this is a really great this process that we just follow up right now in Power Automate. This is exactly what I would love everyone on this channel to think about it in terms of automate some processes without, as you mentioned, Chris, without that knowledge of, okay, I need to run a Python script, or I need to understand JSON, or I need to go to Logic Apps or Azure DevOps or any other technologies. This was kind of a quick example of everything that is doable directly from Power Automate without any line of code.
Yeah, and Gaston, let me, in addition to that, and just to, for the users that are not just system developer, maybe are more in the pro code side of things or in the middle. If you can't find the operation you need for Power BI, you can create your own connector for the Power BI REST API. So you can add more operation that are available in the Power BI API. So you can add operation that are missing on the out of the box connector. You can add your own and do other things with the Power BI REST API, but in the Power Automate side of things. You don't need to write the script, Python, JavaScript, whatever. You just need to create a connector, connect to the Power BI REST API, and other operations that you need.
Well, this is fantastic. So I think, and what you guys are really focused in on is that citizen developer who has is using the Power Platform, right? So they know Power Apps, they know Power Automate, right? They're working on this side. How can they start to interact with Fabric? It's right here, so they can continue to refresh their Power BI data sets. Uh, are there Fabric connectors yet? Do you guys know? I haven't looked into that.
One of the things that I would love to recall, and this is back in time with Alex. Kind of last year, we play a little bit around on one conference, one session that we did was connecting and creating a custom connector. As Alex mentioned before, he
Hmm.
was creating a custom connector in Power Automate. And actually, that conversation and that session was about how to create a Power Virtual Agent that allowed to read anything around Power BI via REST API and answer questions from a bot, a virtual agent bot, that you can just in natural language ask the bot, how many data sets lives in my Power BI environment? What is the latest
Mm.
refresh in my environment? What is the number of data flows that I have? what is going to happen is that we are going to replicate exactly the same session, but instead of hitting the REST API from Power BI, we are going to be hitting the REST API of Fabric. So that session is going to
Ah,
come and we are going to start asking questions like, how many lake house do I have? How many tables in
sure.
my lake house? What was the last refresh of my data warehouse? So we're going to start hitting all the artifacts from the Fabric REST API once that is available for all of us. And you are going to be creating a custom connector that can automate that process from Power Automate hitting the REST API of Fabric.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. And Budi has a follow up. So want to just like mention this. So you've done a great job in articulating the myriad of opportunities in Power Apps Power Automate to do your refreshes and do those interactions. But if we were going to think on the Fabric side, like, is automation something we could do with Data Factory? Is that something that is out there? And maybe is it a combination of Data Factory with orchestration and then Power Apps to like even trigger the kickoff of Data Factory? What are your thoughts or exposure on
Oh,
that
that
side?
that's a really interesting question, Chris. And one thing that I recall in Fabric, and this is again, uh, when you access your Fabric environment here, and you if you're from the Power BI world, you can be a little bit overwhelmed with all these kind of components. But all those components, you can go step by step following that track. Meaning that if you're
Hmm.
familiar, let's say that you're familiar with Power BI and you love Power BI and you make the switch between Excel to Power BI some few years back, and then you love Power
Hmm.
BI, you love all the magic around visualization, and then you jump into DAX and you love around business logic. Then you jump into Power Query and your Power Query everything that you have because you love to all the ETLs and all the things that you can do to mash up the data. Then, in my perspective, you will love what Data Factory Stream is doing here because Data
Mm.
Factory allow you to start step by step on that process. And you can start understanding, okay, if I am from the Power BI world, I might love to jump into something like creating from here, let's say, new artifact, and you're going to be loving this new tool here. This is data flow generation 2 that allow you to do the ETL process. So,
Mm.
and this is nothing almost new for you because it's exactly the whole framework. And let's say that you want to start from scratch, so you start importing a new file here, and you are familiar with Excel files, so you have your Adventure Works data, and you want to upload that data and make the connection and start following that step by step process to cleansing the data. But what I would love to show here is that the whole framework around data factory in Fabric, the whole framework allow you to just run Power Query. So if you're familiar with Power Query, you are connecting with this Excel file and you're going to be doing choose columns, keep top rows, everything that you already know from the Power Query in Power BI Desktop or in the service. So you're gonna start hitting your tables here, and you're gonna be doing exactly the same that you love to do daily basis using Power Query in your Power BI Desktop environment. So it's gonna be the same experience for you. That's pretty insane. Uh, and going back to the main question that was how we can start thinking around the automation behind the scenes in all those artifacts, thinking about workspaces in Power BI, and in Power BI with all those workspaces that you have. In this case, the name of my workspace is Power Automate. You can see that in my workspace, and let me go back on this stage here. and show you something that is really, really important from my understanding. That is, if you go to my workspace here, I can set up something really, really important from the scenario of architect in the data stream. And that is this option here, that is the Git integration. So you're going to be able to get all your artifacts in Fabric. That means lake houses, data warehouses, data flows, reports, data sets. Every single artifact, you're going to be able to connect this with Git, connect to Azure DevOps stream, switch your organization here, switch your project, your Git repo, your branch, and you're going to be connecting with a pipeline and automation process in Azure DevOps. That means that you can automate the whole process for every single artifact that lives in your workspace in Fabric. That is huge.
I mean, that's incredible. So we could start with doing things in Power Automate, which is tools that as a business user I may know and love. I can evolve my career because then let me see if if I could summarize this appropriately. If I love this and I'm starting to get more into it and I want to do more, I can evolve my career and start to use more pro code tools like Data Factory to automate what I'm doing. Uh, and I can do it with a mix of pro code tools with like Data Factory and Git and all of those processes. But I can also mix it with the low code tools like Power Query. Is that right, Gaston? Is it? Am I summarizing this right?
Exactly, exactly. You get exactly the right traction here, Chris. And it's eventually, and this is again trying to get that question from that I remember from the dashboard in a day training few years back. And uh, don't be overwhelmed with Fabric in terms of trying to setting up the stage to understand all the workloads just at once. Go step by step in that process and go step by step in all the artifacts that you're familiar with, because there's a lot of components that uh, they are really familiar for a Power BI perspective. So if you belong to that world and you jump from right away from the citizen developer's perspective, you can start the process of, okay, I know a bunch of things around Power BI. How about my next step is data factory? How about understanding how to create a data flow generation tool in Fabric? And what is the main advantage? For example, I didn't mention that, but I mentioned the kind of the 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 way of you can structure your Power Query kind of in the same way you mash up data in uh, Power BI. But one of the great components around data flows is that you can land the data. You can pick a destination of your data, and that destination could be Azure SQL, could be Synapse, but could be a lakehouse in Fabric. And then when you have a destination of your data flow as lakehouse, next step is, what is a lakehouse and how I can use a lakehouse in Fabric. So that is kind of a really follow next process for any Power BI fanboy and someone that been in that space for a while. That is a really great creating that kind of a training by step, not trying to go overwhelm someone with a bunch of artifacts that you need to understand right away.
Well, and Gaston and Alex, I think you kind of agree, or at least when I go into like a Golden Corral or a buffet, there's a buffet of food. I don't grab all of the plates and all of the food and pile it up on all the plates and then go sit down and try to eat everything. I go and I take what I'm interested, right? Like I grab some salad, I grab some meat, I grab some potatoes, And then I head back and I sit and eat that, right? But that's the meal I needed for that day. I don't grab salad and Jello and cottage cheese and right like everything on the veggie bar, and then I don't go to the meat section and grab all right. Like that's silly. Like we shouldn't do that, right? And but I think what I'm hearing, and Alex, maybe you can expand upon this, is if I'm an app developer and I need to do some reporting, this gives me a pathway, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But what I tried to explain at the beginning is exactly that. If you are creating an application or grabbing some data from other systems, for example, it's another use case you can have with Power Automate, taking some data from other system and landing on into Dataverse, for example, Dataverse. So, but yeah, so you can quickly move data into Fabric and then just create a reporting on Power BI with not need to know uh, everything around Fabric and how the whole ecosystem works. I am not a data guy. I am just I came more from the automation side of things and and AI side of things. But yeah, if I need to create a report, I should be able to move data and start creating a report. And that is the thing I was thinking on this case. It's like, okay, a quickly way in thinking on again on a citizen developer or someone who know a lot about business but is not a technical guy, or they can not from the IT side of things. So should be able to move quickly data, connect with the Power BI, create report dashboards, and that should be easy combining those kinds of tools.
Well, and this is I have one observation or comment, and I think it's going to lead into two great questions we have from users. And I worked for a CIO, CTO, I don't know, whatever. I worked for a bigwig at one point in time who had kind of laid down an edict that I thought made a lot of sense. Was um, he said that the data that the organization produces is one of the most valuable long-term assets that we're ever going to have. That data is created from the applications that we build and manage. So any application that we build and manage needs to be storing that data and reporting on that data. So anything that goes in has to have a surface area on the output for analytics, right? And he kind of laid that down as like, hey, this is the law. And so what that meant is all app developers always had to have that mindset, not just that I'm building an app, but I'm building an app to create data assets that we're going to leverage in the future. And I think this comes in and goes into what BMS is asking here, which is with so many citizen developers in our organization creating, changing, removing data with these tools, how does an organization implement data governance in Fabric to ensure you don't create a swamp? And that's and I'm going to turn right back over to you, Alex. And I think you have. We were talking earlier, so I think you have a good answer on this one. So, and then Jason Campbell followed that up with, he said he was just thinking about that. A solid COE should provide some visibility to everything that's going on. Alex, what is your take on those questions and comments?
Yeah, exactly. I know Gaston loved this topic about governance and all the stuff, but I am going to elaborate a little bit more on the of course you need to set up the governance, set up properly. In this case, for example, a Power Platform COE, so you can, because exactly as you mentioned, if you are, even if the application are not a huge application with developer with thousands of lines of code in C#, even if there are a couple of power apps, but maybe you use those power up as data entry. So that's going to generate a bunch of data on your basis. So you need to governance who can access to the application, who can store data, who can access the data, security, compliance on the back. So yeah, you need to set properly a COE on the Power Platform side of things. But of course, if you're using Fabric, and I'm going to hand over to Gaston, is you need to set properly the governance on the Fabric side of things or Power BI side of things. So yeah, you need, of course.
Yeah, regarding that, Chris, there's two main components on this question. One is, and this is me on my consultant hat right now. That is more kind of you're setting up a center of excellence on the Power Platform side of things, and that is really important to manage and understand how your citizen developers they've been running the whole framework on creating new apps, creating new automate process, creating new power virtualizations, because that is a little bit of the environment you want to handle, and this is something that the product team has been doing for a while in the Power Platform side of things. That is center in the Center of Excellence Starter Kit. That is a really great component that they have there in Power Platform. I'm going to repeat that again.
Mm.
Center of Excellence Starter Kit. If you go and look at that one, they have been doing a really great job on setting up the stage of to know exactly what's going on in your environment from the Power Platform and citizen developers perspective. Then, then in the other side of things, we are gonna have a whole new world, Chris, between you, me, and all the data platform communities around there. That is what is going to be the governance around Fabric, how we are going to setting up the stage around Fabric, because I've been hearing from many clients at this point. They've been asking me, hey Gaston, now that I realize how to govern Power BI, you are saying that I'm not the Power BI admin team anymore, I am the Fabric admin. And that means a huge new responsibilities. I need to understand how I'm gonna govern all those teams and all the workflows together. The data engineer, the data warehousing team, the near real-time analytic teams. Then you're saying that there's a new tool there that's going on, the data activator team right now. How we're gonna be
Yep.
start thinking around the governance around workspace, and how I gonna be understanding all the capacities workloads coming all around. So it's an interesting topic. It's a really great topic. I think we need to be aware that both worlds uh, in some way they are going to be touching together, meaning the Power Platform governance is going to be touching the Fabric governance layer. So we need to be aware of that. And that is exactly what we did in the last episodes, kind of a landing data directly from a new Power Apps, landing that data from Dataverse into Fabric. So meaning that every citizen developer they are going to be
Mm.
pushing data from Dataverse, from Power Apps, from Power Automate into Fabric, and we need to setting up the stage of that governance layer.
Well, and I think that we're going to see something very big here. Two things. One, uh, we need to be, if we're working in Fabric, we should be aware of what the Power Platform COE kit does when it provides information about the what's going on inside the Power Platform. Fabric does not have that today, and I don't know if it will or when it will, but it does have the APIs that would support that. So we can learn a lot from the Power App COE kit to see all of the types of things that are being done over there. We should be thinking about how we can do that inside of Microsoft Fabric, right? So we can see parity. Maybe we can even mash those together. But I think too, and this does go to directly responding to BMS and Jason Campbell about like, hey, what are people doing with this data? We don't want there to be a swamp. I've mentioned this before, and I think it bears repeating. If we think old school, prior to self-service, right, prior to like what people enabling people in the business with these tools, okay, the centralized team manage all of the data, right? They manage the flows, they manage all the loads, they manage all the tables. But then people came in and they accessed those reports, they accessed that content, and what was the first thing that they did with it? They exported it to Excel, and they took it out of the view of what anyone inside of central IT was doing with the data. They lost sight of it completely. They had no idea what was going on with it. They thought their world was this central IT space, the central data warehouse, the central data lake or lake house, right? They thought that was the data world of their organization. What these tools are going to allow us to do is uh, not just see what's going on, but understand what people are now doing with that data, what the downstream impacts are. Like we're now even, because you have those APIs and because Gaston and Alex, you started to put these things together, we're going to be able to trace that through and see like, okay, hey, here's our central data, but you know what, Tom? Tom does all these exports every single day, and Tom has built out a lake house. And Tom has, oh my gosh, Tom has 8,000 people that use his lake house every day, and we have 800 in our central team. Oh my gosh, what is Tom doing? Let's see what he's doing. And holy cow, how wonderful. Tom is using all of the same tools, all of the same capabilities that we have today. So when we say, hey, Tom, we want you to become like a full on engineer, we want to bring you in IT, Tom's using the same skills. He's using his same code. He's using his same data, right? He's doing all of the things that he was doing before. And now those 8,000 users become part of that, enterprise team. And it all becomes part of that enterprise space. And, we as organizations just continue to get better and better as we go. And so I love this story. And I love what you guys are doing with this.
Yeah. You can't
Yeah,
you can't you can imagine how many times I found this kind of stories in different companies when we setting up the Power Platform COE. When they say no, this is a just few users using Power Platform, and then you start the starter kit and start tracking, and there's a thousand of users creating their own applications, flows, and so yeah, it's happening.
Right. And that could change people's careers and lives.
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of a great message, kind of a Chris. The way you can change, and this is kind of the main message from my end. That is, thinking about the great ways that you have in your hands right now with all these technologies, where you don't need to be an IT architect or data architect or pro code developer. Knowing your business, that is your power, that is your superpower, because knowing your business, knowing your process, knowing what you want to be next around your business process, that is all you need. That is all you need, because with all these frameworks, everything that happens in the Power Platform world, everything that Fabric is bringing to the table, with both two worlds, you can make it happen. And all these AI capabilities all around right now, they're going to be here for us. They're going to be here from the citizen developer to switch careers, to train themselves in a different way and different manner, and understand all this process. You don't need to be an IT engineer to jump in and to build up power apps from scratch. And we are going to show that in our next episode with Alex. We are going to be starting a power apps from scratch without any kind of knowledge around power apps, any kind of knowledge, just Copilot everywhere. And we are going to be just looking at a SQL endpoint in Fabric, and we're going to be landing the data into Fabric without any kind of IT knowledge. So that is kind of the powerful word here, that without any kind of knowledge in the IT world, you can develop amazing apps. You can be leveraging Power Platform, you can leveraging Fabric, and you can make it happen. And it's going to be easy step and easy forward. And that's going to be the clear message from Power Mates. It's going to be how a citizen developer can switch careers, leveraging their skills, upgrading their skills. Young adults right now finishing high schools and they don't know exactly what to do. This is a really clear path,
Exactly.
and this is a really great path for them.
Well, and I'll piggyback on that. Like, because it's a path you can chart yourself and allow your career and to follow your interests and your passions, and allow you to, when you do that, you're going to be delivering better and bigger things. And it's a fantastic opportunity for so many people. I get super excited about this. Now, Alex, there is a question here. I want to see if like if you've had any thoughts around this, and we'll go to you, Gaston. Um, if you're a new person, right, and you're into Power Apps, Power Automate, and you're thinking about like, hey, I hear what you're saying about Fabric. What should we watch out for, right? Like, I'm gonna try it, right? Like, or in this case, the government lockdown's gonna prevent them for a little while. But if you're a new user and you're thinking about spinning up and attempting this, are there any gotchas? Are there any things that people should be watching out for when they do this?
Yeah, go.
When you start with Fabric, just to give you an example, when you start with Fabric, one piece of advice that I've been giving everyone is start from the really early stage on Fabric, and try to think about it in terms of uh, for example, for enterprise. And this is again uh, questions around many clients that they've been asking. Hey, Gaston, everybody is pinging me to release Fabric in our environment. What I should be doing? Should I release in Fabric overall in all my tenant, or should I be doing something else? First of all, and Microsoft has been doing a great job on this one. That is, you have the Microsoft 365 E5 developer program, where you can spin up any kind of environment using any account without touching any kind of enterprise data. So you don't need to be worried as an admin on, oh, Gaston, how are you going to be managing all these workloads all together? You can start from scratch without any kind of data movement or enterprise sensitive data all around, on thinking around PII data, and all these concerns are, oh, I don't have private endpoints, I don't have keyboards, I don't know. Let's start from a developer program. Let's start, just knowing the artifacts. Just go into your Microsoft Learn. There's a huge, great learning path around Fabric. Spin up your environment using a developer program, subscriptions, go into your learning path, uh, go to the Fabric learning path, and go step by step in that process to understand how everything works on that stage. Uh, Same happens with the Power Platform. I don't mind if you want to chime in here, Alex, but you have exactly the same learning path around Power Platform. You can start from scratch using the same Microsoft 365 EFI developer program. Go into your learning path and understand the Power Platform end-to-end solution and scenarios for that.
Yeah, yeah. Just in addition to that, yeah, you can follow the learning path for Microsoft, and you can use the name on the Power Platform. Name is Power App Developer Plan. Is the right name for the environment. So you can create your own environment with all the licenses you need, because Power Platform has like premium licenses and connectors. So, but you can use everything in it, because the Power App Developer Plan allows you to create. So you can start, as I used to say, it's like you can start playing around with all the things that you want to create on the Power Up side of things, Power Platform, Power Automate, whatever. So yeah, and the learning path, from my perspective, is if you are new on this kind of technology, you like try to at least the introduction learning path, and then put focus, and you want to be a app developer or flow, whatever you need, and put focus on those kind of path, because they're going to uh, put you on the next level to understand how it works and how you can build with that technology. It's not just, okay, I hear Alex telling about something we can build now. Try to be more informed in that, and you can continue with the path. Yeah.
Oh, that is fantastic. Well, Alex, Gaston, thank you guys so very much for joining me today. We are at time, and we try really hard because everyone's got meetings. Thank you guys for joining us today. So we're going to be getting out of here. Thank you guys for dialing in today. Hopefully we answered all your questions. We got to everything that was there. But you guys have a fantastic day. Join us again next Friday for Fabric Fridays. We're going to be going deep into Microsoft Fabric topics, or at least introducing some things, get people used to working with them. And next Wednesday at the Lunch and Learn, we are going to be going into CI/CD and Fabric. We're going to be talking about a continuous integration, continuous deployments. Super excited about that one. Alex, Gaston, any parting words for our viewers?
Oh,
Yep, go
just to
ahead.
close, yeah. Next Thursday, we are going to launch a new episode on the PowerMate. So just invite you to follow us, and you can learn more about how to mix and combine these wonderful worlds.
I'm gonna end
Oh.
with this word, kind of from the Ted Lasso soccer show. Believe and believe in yourself.
Ah, I love that. Believe and believe in yourselves. What a fantastic way to end the show. Thank you guys so much. I believe in you. You should believe in yourselves, just as Gaston says. You guys have a great day. Peace. Baker Tilly Digital combines strategic industry insight and advanced technical expertise to uncover and solve your digital transformation challenges. If you're interested in learning more, check out our website at bakertilly.com/digital.